So I'm Jean-Marie Ferdegue, and I'm going to talk about the hidden cost of technology. So we all agree, new technology is great. There's many things which have come around the last few years which made it great. Think about Cassandra, think Docker, Kafka, Kubernetes. And not just the tools, the way we work have changed. So we can now have real continuous deployment. That was something that we were aiming for years. That's now real, that is happening. And the way we work have changed as well. We've got many clients who now have full team of developers working remotely, and we really enjoy that. And our work overall has become more interesting. We work with teams of cross-functional people, which makes our job more interesting and which allow us to add more value, which is, in the end, the goal. So we can add more value to the companies, the organization we work in. We now are able to iterate much faster onto all the products we work on. And even on a larger scale, that means that businesses can now grow at a global level in a matter of years, which wasn't something we could do before. But that has a cost. So that's what I want to talk about today. So since we talk about microservices, let's start with microservices. Microservices, as it was mentioned before, give us the promise of being completely tech independent. So you choose the best technology for the right job. It's great, it's working, but that also means that leads to a fragmentation of the technologies. So not so much from a programming language or runtime perspective, because the programming language are somehow abstracted by the containers, by the fact that they're running into a Docker or any other container. So the programming language are abstracted, but the middlewares are not. So think about RabbitMQ, Kafka, Spark, all these things still need to run into your production system, and you need to have people who have skills in maintaining those. And also think about the fact that we say, oh, for every new problem, assess which technology is right. It's great, but that also means that when you go live, how often do you think about the technologies that are currently running in production and which are not the best technology for the job? You don't really decommission technologies that often, do you? So you end up with a production system which has many technologies. The technologies in the production system are just growing. And what is true at the application level is also true at the data store level. So we talk about polyglot persistence, each microservices having its own database, and we heard Nikki before saying the database shouldn't be part of the container. So again, that's a skill you need to have when you run something in a production system. So really, the first cost is a people one. You're looking for someone who is a unicorn. You're looking for someone with all the skills we mentioned before. It's polyglot in all these technologies, and sometimes polyglot just in terms of languages, because you've got distributed teams. But it's still something that you need to run in production. So very often it's a 24/7 business. And from a culture perspective, you're looking for people who are happy to maintain rather than innovate and be part of the greenfield project. At the same time, you don't want to pay these people unreasonable amounts. So you still need to find these people in a cost-effective way. And because they're going to maintain things in a production system, you want them to be stable in their career. We all accept if you're going to be close to the production system, it will take a while before you can be trusted with the system, and we expect to invest in you for maybe a bit longer than a typical developer. So that's the first cost, the people cost. Another cost is the culture. A while ago, businesses didn't understand the value of technology. Now businesses do understand the value of technology. They've largely understood that this investment goes with pouring money into technology. And as a consequence, we see with a lot of our clients that the effort they put into the technology, mainly in terms of teams, the teams are growing. But that can have an impact on the culture. So we see that more and more with our clients, the fact that the teams are growing, but they still want to maintain the culture that they had when they were much smaller. That's the second cost. The third cost is, think about the role of the CIO. The CIO is not someone who is technology only anymore. It's someone who is technology, but is also a business leader. So if you wanted to summarize the responsibilities he's got, it's someone who is able to drive innovation, but keeping the lights on at the same time. And to the business stakeholders, keeping the lights on is something which they can easily understand. They don't really want to talk about that. That's kind of a given. What they want to talk about is innovation and how the company is going to innovate with technology. But if you think about it, the two are competing for the same resources. You only have one technology team most of the time. So while the main focus of the business stakeholder, is on driving innovation, for a company, being able to have a system to keep the lights on at a minimal cost, at a minimal effort for their resources is absolutely key. That's the third cost of technology. And the same way we're talking about the CIO driving innovation, the business being interested in driving innovation, that's also true for any open source project. Open source projects are subject to the same bias of being focused on innovation before the less shiny, keeping the lights on, the whole monitoring, making sure that it scales, all these kind of things. And they're also subject to another bias, which is the crowd-pleasing bias. The fact that if you've got an issue which is widespread, they're very likely to want to solve it straight away. If it's something which is less widespread, you're probably going to have to wait a bit more for that to be fixed. So that's something we've seen recently between Kubernetes and Rackspace. Kubernetes is a great product, Rackspace is a great hosting company, but the two have some small issues. So it's something that needs to be thought about when you implement technology, and that was the fourth cost. So in terms of what the future holds, we think that companies will move more into microservices. As they move more into microservices, they will have an increased need to run their operation, and the way they run their operation will be something that separates them from their competitors. It will be a strategic advantage to have operations done right. So whether they run the operation themselves or whether we see companies emerging who specialized in running operation, there are already companies doing that for the traditional stack. We don't see that many companies nowadays that do that on the modern stack, which is what Keep It Running is doing. So just to summarize, there's 4 hidden costs to technology. There's the people cost, the culture cost, keeping the balance between innovation and keep it running, and getting that balance right, and the support model for open source products. Thank you.